I'm gonna do a quick little Instapot tutorial to show you how to make one of our favorite soups. It's called cheesy chicken chowder. So in here right now I have 1 onion. I'm gonna do just a quick little Instapot tutorial on one of our favorite soups called cheesy chicken chowder. If you've been to my house probably any time in the past 15 years, I've probably made this for you at least one time. It's always a crowd pleaser, and I've taken it many places as well. But what I have in here is 1 onion, about 4 or 5 carrots chopped, and then 2 ribs of celery chopped. And it's just sauteing in like 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter. I've also already put some salt and pepper on the veggies since they have been cooking and they're ready to go. So what I'm going to do now is just take a couple of tablespoons of flour. The original recipe didn't call for a lot of the things that I do, but I just usually change pretty much anything that I do to make it how I like it. I like it a little bit thicker and creamier and more like chowdery-ish and not quite as soupy-ish as the recipe called for, original recipe. I'm sure those are words, soupier and chowderier. I originally got this recipe, I don't even know, probably 17, 18 years ago from my friend Shanna Bailey when I worked with her a long, long time ago. And it, like I said, I've adapted it, but it's still one of our absolute favorites. And this is going to be really hard to do one-handed. So I've already chopped up, this is like 5 or 6 small to medium potatoes. I always make this in a very large batch because my boys love it and they will eat it until it's gone. So I'm just I let that flour cook for just a few minutes, not even a few minutes, but just started to cook. Add all the potatoes in. I made a mess. This is hard to do one-handed. Add all the potatoes. Anyway, so I always make this large because it's like a double batch. I don't necessarily know that it's a double batch. I just add extra potatoes, corn. Sometimes I add more carrots, and I usually always just do 1 onion, 1 celery, but sometimes I do more carrots. And then this is just Aldi frozen corn. The original recipe did not call for corn, but we like it in here. That was one of the additions that I made. That was probably just like 1/4 of a bag of corn. Again, that's something you can add as little or as much as you want to. Just because I'm trying to conserve what little chicken stock I have, I'm going to put 4 bullion cubes in there. And then I'm just going to fill this with water. So I have been cooking this on my Sauté setting on my Instapot. I did turn it off for a minute so I could get everything else ready to go. So I'm just trying to get all those brown bits up off of the bottom of the Instapot. I would do this anyway, even if I was cooking it in a big stock pot on the stove top, because you always want to get all those good caramelized bits off the bottom, but especially on your Instapot, because if you leave things on the bottom, it can cause a burn spot. So just work a minute with it and until you feel, and you can feel when it comes off because it's not really sticking anymore. Alright, so I'm just going to push all that back down in there, and then I've got more water to add. So you don't want like so much liquid in here that it's going to make this really soupy, but you definitely want your veggies pretty much just like covered. So I'm going to add a little bit more. And I'm going to throw my chicken in here and then see if I need more water. So like I said, just until it's covered. You don't want it like super loose. I went ahead and chopped up my chicken breast. I de-thawed some frozen chicken breast. Again, I'm conserving what I have that's fresh. It's very hard to find chicken right now. So this works great. These are actually not even all the way thawed out. They're just like partially thawed. So I'm just gonna add those in there. Another thing that I typically do that I did not do just for video purposes was I know it sounds silly, but I always like do all my vegetable prep work first, put it in here, and then would let that cook for a little bit, get warm, and then chop my chicken. So that way I only have one cutting board to have to clean instead of two. Like I said, it may sound silly, but to me, it's just one less thing that I have to clean is just quicker for me. That looks like an onion peel. I don't know, I'm gonna take that out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add some more salt and pepper. So another important thing when you're cooking, probably every recipe that I make online, I add more seasoning to. It's going to have very base seasonings, not typically just what you really need. So if you season every layer, like I already seasoned the vegetables, and then I'm going to season this again. So just salt and pepper. And so you can kind of tell. I probably use like 1.5 quarts of water, I guess, because those were both mason jars, with the bouillon. And I just like to make sure my stuff's in there. Anyway, so if you season each layer as you go, everything is just more flavorful. So that's probably one of the biggest keys when cooking, is to make sure you're seasoning enough. I'm having trouble with my lid. This is hard one-handed. So I'm just locking my lid on. Oh, I've been baking all day. This has got flour all over it. Oh well. And I'm going to make sure that it's locked. Every Instant Pot's a little bit different how yours works. So I'm going here and I'm going to turn this. Look at my nice burn from earlier this week. I don't normally burn myself, but that was a doozy. Turn this off so I can switch it to manual. And I'm going to cook it probably 20 minutes. Well, I'll just leave it at 22. It's fine. I usually cook all my soups between 20 and 25 minutes. My spaghetti, last time I cooked it for about 15 minutes because 25, it was kind of scorching. I may try it 20 next time because I thought it could have used a little bit more. And that's the only thing about the Instant Pot. You kind of have to play around with it and try it the next time because once it's set, you can't change the temperature. I mean, you could turn it off, but you have to restart the whole pressurizing process. So once it's going, and there's no stopping it unless you want to start the whole process over. So I'm going to let this cook, and I'll come back and show you how to make the cheese sauce and how to release and all this kind of stuff, because I know a lot of people are a little scared and intimidated by this beautiful, wonderful piece of God-given machinery for the kitchen. It's like the best thing for a working mom is this thing right here. Anything that I normally cook on the stovetop, I have pretty much transferred over to my Instant Pot because I can cook it in a third of the time. Anything that takes hours on the stovetop goes in here in like 20-25 minutes and it's done. It does take longer because it does have to come to pressure, but still, like, it may take 10 minutes to come to pressure, so you're still talking about way less time than normal when you cook it on the stovetop. So this will, once it reaches pressure, it will switch over to 22, and then it'll count backwards until it's done. Then it will start counting back up, so you know when it's come to pressure and finished. But those are just some things about my Instant Pot. And I have the Lux. So they're all a little different. But I will be back to show you how to finish it out. All right, so we have stopped pressure cooking. It is counting up. And my Instant Pot has this little red valve. Some do not have the valve, so yours may or may not have the valve. So this is a visual safety feature that I can see, but I know the one my friend has at work does not have this. So it is sealed. I have started cooking mine underneath. We have our microwave up in cabinets. So I've started using my Instant Pot, ow, that's hot, over the microwave, just because I have a light. And even though what a vent microwave really does nothing, at least gives me a little bit of a vent. But I am going to pull this out because it's just so much steam. I kind of do it on the edge of the countertop. So you see how it's already releasing because I'm making it move. So if you're really scared, you can use the edge of a spoon. You don't really have to be. I mean, it's not really going to hurt you if you use your finger. And I'll show you that you can use your finger. So you just, because it doesn't come at you, it comes back. So just depending on where you use your Instapot and whether you have, I used to use it on my peninsula, but see, I have these lights over my peninsula, so it was like spraying my lights all the time. So we're going to let that completely depressurize, and we're going to come over here. Let me try to go slow. I don't want to make you get sick. Excuse my mess over there on the floor. So I've got some butter melting on the stove top here. This is like half a stick of butter, and I did not get my flour open. Alright, so we're just gonna put, I'm gonna turn the heat back up on this and get my, got a silicone, a couple of different ones. My Pampered Chef one, like the covering has started coming off. I don't know if you can see that, so I've not been using it, so the metal is exposed. So I think, actually my boss's wife gave me this one for Christmas, so yeah, I needed one anyway. So I'm going to just spoon in some, this is self-rising flour. I always use self-rising flour when I'm making a roux versus all-purpose flour. The difference between the two is self-rising just already has the baking soda, baking powder, salt added to the flour, so you don't have to add it where you would have to add it if you use all-purpose flour when you're needing something to rise. So that was like 2 big, that's like a serving spoon kind of spoon, so it's actually a little bit bigger than a tablespoon. So you just want to make sure you get like the flour and the butter all incorporated. And then, it's got water coming out of it. Sorry, look, you can see my dirty sink. Obviously, I'm not a professional. So I'm gonna add some salt and pepper to this while it's cooking. And you don't have to cook it a lot. You just want to cook it just enough to get that raw flour taste out of it. And I mean, if you don't cook it, then it will just taste like straight up like flour. So you do have to do that. So then I'm going to pour in some milk. Okay, I do not measure anything when I'm cooking at all. My mom cooked that way. That's how I learned to cook, so I just don't. So I cook by feeling and what I see. So this is probably going to be, like I said, it was like half a stick of butter. Probably 1/4 cup of flour maybe. And this is going to be a cup maybe of milk. Somewhere between a cup and 2 cups of milk probably. So you don't want this like, you want this thicker than like a traditional roux, because you're really making a cheese sauce with this, which is why I add more butter and more flour. Like a roux is just cooked butter and flour is all a roux is. And that's the base to any type of like creamy thick sauce. That's what you do with a roux. So I'm just slowly adding in the milk, as you can see, and stirring it till I get it to the right texture that I want. So I want this smooth, and that's why you do it in batches as well, and not just dump all your milk in at one time, because you can't get all those lumps of flour out of there if you just dump all your milk in. It's just way harder. So if you do it in slow batches, then, and this is probably going to be enough, I'll just go ahead and pour that in there. And I'm using whole milk because that's just what my kids drink. I'm not a huge milk drinker, so I don't drink much. And FYI, this is not the healthiest soup. I know that. But you know what? Sometimes you just want a good comfort soup. So if you're on low carb, don't make this. If you're worried about your calories, don't make this. Save it for when you don't care and you just want some comfort food. Most all my friends know my mom passed away in November, and I've just been really missing her, and I don't know, it's just, unfortunately, I'm an emotional eater, and I've just been wanting comfort foods. So even though I made corn chowder earlier in the week, which my boys didn't love because I used some like raw corn. I think that's what it was. Anyway, that was in the freezer at my parents' house. I'm making this cheesy chicken chowder again because it's one of our favorites. And we'll have bread with it. And I made cinnamon rolls today. It's all good. Tomorrow's another day. Okay, so this is kind of loose. It may be a little bit more loose than what I really want, but my heat's kind of down. So you kind of want your heat more like, I had it on probably medium low. You want it more medium high. When you're doing that, I really wasn't paying attention, just so you can get it to thicken up. It'll be okay. So then I'm going to add my cheese. So another thing I love about this soup is there's not a cheese it doesn't like. You can add whatever kind of cheese. This is actually, I've got like a bag of Colby Jack that I actually just dumped a bunch of other cheeses in. It's like clean out your cheese drawer type soup, which is why mine never tastes exactly the same. The original recipe just called for cheddar cheese, but like I said, I use whatever I have. So I literally put slices of cheese in here because I buy real cheese. I don't buy any processed cheese. So I've had like, I'm bad about forgetting that I have cheese, and so I buy more cheese, and I buy more cheese, and I buy more cheese, and then we have an overwhelming amount of cheese in our cheese drawer. So I've literally like put like whole things of slashed cheese in here before because I had way too much and just needed to do something with it, and we weren't going to eat it. So any cheese that melts will work. So just stir this in until all your cheese melted. So you probably are going to want about 2 cups of cheese in this mixture here. And I may add a little bit more. Like I said, I turned my heat down, and so this is not thickening up as quick as it normally does. I'm going to add just a little bit more salt. You don't have to add tons and tons of salt in this because cheese has a lot of salt in it already. And then I like pepper, obviously, as you can tell. They kid me about it at work because I like lots of pepper, heavy pepper, everything. But they love everything I bring, so they must not complain about it too bad. All right, so we're just want to let that thicken up here on us. It's being a little cantankerous right now. Again, I don't measure, so sometimes it's thicker, sometimes it's thinner. All right, so we're just gonna keep stirring this so you can see that the cheese is melting. I forgot to mute my TV, so I got Gilmore Girls going on in the background. Probably can hear the dirt box. Here they come. We got a gaggle of boys outside on the dirt box. My boys and just our neighbor. We are social distancing as much as we can, but they're all geared up with helmets on, so they're not spreading too many germs between each other. All right, so you can see that this is thickened up finally since I turned the heat up. And you just want all the cheese to melt and it to be creamy. So I don't like it to be quite, now it's almost boiling, so I'm gonna turn that back down because you do not want it to burn. Yeah, it's almost ready. So you really just want it to be creamy and not like super stringy. All right, I'm gonna just set this to the side off of the heat for just a minute so we can come over here slowly, slowly. Do you love our floors? And my valve has dropped down, so that's when I know mine is safe. Also, Instapots are made where they will not open when your valve is up either. So even if you don't have one that has a red valve, your Instapot still will not open. See, it opens if all the pressure is not released. So that's one little nice safety feature with the Instapot. Alrighty, so here we go. This is cooked. Okay, so the last time I made this soup, I did take my pot out. I can't do that while videoing, so I'm just gonna add this in the video and then I'll take it out, because I learned the hard way one time. I made a chicken and gnocchi soup in this, and I added the cream to it and it curdled, because this stays hot for a very long time. So that's another thing to note. If you leave the lid on it, it will not cool off. It will stay hot. So when you're doing something that's especially heavy cream, milk doesn't curdle as bad, but the heavy cream will curdle. So just note to self, if you ever try a recipe in your Instant Pot, like a soup that calls for heavy cream at the end, I would take your whole insert out and then add the cream to it. So I just usually set it on a like a oh my goodness, my mom distracted, like a heat pad, and use that. So I'm gonna carry that over here, and we're just gonna dump all this luscious cheese sauce in here. And I'm trying to get it all out because I can't scrape at this at the same time. All right, so I'm gonna scrape this out when I get this off and add it back in there. My spoon, it's stuck to my thing. So here you go. So you just stir that in. And I usually always serve this with a bread of some sort. Aldi has this amazing Italian bacon take loaf that is perfect. It's crusty and soft. It's very similar to like Panera's baguettes. I love it. We'll probably do, because Rex went to the store for me, and you see all of the Red Lobster biscuits he bought. So we'll probably be having Red Lobster biscuits with us tonight. And since they're still out riding, I won't make those right now. But this is the delicious cheesy chicken chowder. My friend Carrie Ann says it's award-winning. She cracks me up because I have actually won some soup contests with this soup. It is really good. But that's cheesy chicken chowder. Again, like I said, if you're dieting, just don't make it, because you can't make this soup and it just not be what it is. If you are vegetarian, you easily could use veggie stock and not put any chicken in it. If you're vegan, if you have a good cashew cream sauce, you could do that in place of the cheese sauce. I have a recipe somewhere for when I was vegan for those 4 months of my life. That was actually not bad. So you could try that in this and see how it works and make a vegan option. And so I would just make the cashew cream sauce at the end, and he just added in just like I did with the cheese sauce. So there's cheesy chicken chowder. Hope y'all enjoy.